Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And this is a soul day with Mercury hour and Mercury kind of at the end of Taurus. Ascendant is ruled by Mars, Scorpio, with Mars conjuncting Aries, and the moon is applying to conjunct the 22nd degree Chiron, and the midheaven is ruled by Leo, with the Sun in 12 degrees Gemini and Venus in 11 degree Gemini conjuncting it. I wanted to just pay attention to something that I have been paying attention, I'm sharing with you, that was coming all across the board from some right-wing leaders, some whistleblowers, even Assange, and then some YouTubers. And when I heard reiterations of this over and over again, I said, okay, I must pay attention to this. So I do look at the funding for our daily lives. And right now, because of this reset, public health, and so on, and the wars that have been going on, the sparking of kind of questioning of origins and going into tribalism and ideation and devaluation of many things, which is a part of the changing thought process. One of the things that came to me is we cannot whether fight for democracy or for more representative way of running our daily lives, okay, which includes politics, okay, distribution of resources, with the same funding of the Inquisition and with the same policies that the Inquisition requires the people who receive its funding, whether through the wealth families, not only Jewish families, okay, whoever cuts dividends to update to the Church, to the Vatican, has got again nothing to do with Christ consciousness. Okay, it's nothing to do with Christ consciousness, it's to do with structure and wealth structure. Yes, Christ wouldn't ask you for what for if you have a family of men and men or men and women. Okay, Christ wouldn't. A person that claims to represent Christianity or God would. Is it a correct representation of God? No, because they're representing God for them. They're not representing God for you. This is highly important to begin to sift and sort and to begin to identify, not just in the politics where many people say, I'm not going to vote, okay, reasonable, because you're voting for, if you're voting for Op Day, whether you're links or rechts in Europe, or if you're voting for the church, whether you're blue pill or red pill, then because the monies, the dividends are cut to basically those who funded the Inquisition. Yes, again, it's not to do with Christianity or Islam or Judaism. It's not to do with that. And it's not about, let's kill all the people with this religion because this is silly. What we want to do is for we the people. We need to be more inclusive as society. But I do want to begin to identify what are the things that through lodges, through cults, through supposedly academic studies, through parliament, okay, through what you have to put in your policy for when you run to any kind of elections, municipal, state, republic, parliament. And I've talked about these traditional family values and why this is basically origin in Inquisition and is not yielding well to even the traditional families, usually preceding wars, mandatory army service, that breaks down, make dysfunctional families. The children are kidnapped and are traded, and this is by Inquisition. Okay, it's not. Yes, they are the direct the order givers to do all this, but whether you're living in Dubai or in United States or in Palestine or in Israel. Why do I say Palestine? For me, if I talk about trade, okay, there is an Israeli-Palestinian Chamber of Commerce. It means that we trade with Palestine. That means that as per a fiscal entity, there is an entity called Palestine. Okay, so whether you are belonging of this entity, still the money, the wealth that flows through the world is summoning up to places like Vatican, and it is those Mormons that belong to that call in the ideologies that are compatible with Inquisition from Islam and from whatever denominations. Okay, what you need to know is because Christians won't do the banking themselves, they take another religion, in this case the Jews. This is structure. It could be Muslims, okay, it could be other, okay, Muslims also, they can't do loans, they take it for the Jews to do that, just like Jews take Muslims or people who are not Jews, what they call Gentiles, to put the light on in the bathroom if somebody put it off on Shabbat and they cannot touch it, so they look for, and this is why we need diversity around us, okay, and there's nobody to light your Shabbat toilet. You're gonna have to poop in the dark and hope you cleaned everything correctly if there is not a person who is not Jew around you. This is called for tolerance and religious tolerance. We need this diversity. And now one other thing that I begin to see is the name Thatcher. Okay, the name Margaret Thatcher. So when I see it from right-wing leaders, I'm like, okay, they, I don't know, look up to Churchill, look up to this. I don't even think Churchill supported that. I really don't know. But it's obvious that they are forced to bring about a certain perception, and that is Thatcherism, which I'm going to talk about. When I see whistleblowers like Julian Assange, that needs to be debelmarched at any case, okay? Journalism is not crime. Bring in the name Thatcher, okay, even back in the days. I'm like, there is something very funny, very weird, especially for people who see, you know, a situation where people are, cannot work because they have PTSD and so on, and Julian himself will not be able to work when he's released from Belmarsh, hopefully, yes, safely released from Belmarsh. He will himself need to be, in rehabilitation state. But what is that about? But because of the funding. If the funding was from Rockefeller, which funded WikiLeaks, or for Opday, which funds, or the Weld family, the Rothschilds, the this, the that, which fund United States, which fund Israel, which also fund certain parties in Netherlands, they require for you to have, you can get the funding, but you must say the name Thatcher. You must do this, you must do that, okay? And it works just like Model UN, but with real cash. So you're way more obligated. What is Model UN? Let's say you represent the country, then a part of the games that they play is they say you must say this sentence. And you have to incorporate it into your speech, into your policy. And this is like a game, okay, of how you become a good orator. And so when it's money, they say, yes, you get the funding for your campaign, but you must say the name Thatcher. You must put the value, traditional family value, when you know your country is going to either be invaded or go to war. Okay, with Hitler, it was risk of the country being invaded, so it had to respond to that, and then he had to go to big war. And even Germans hate it. Even if you take all the racism out and you say, what if Hitler was not racist? Yes, it would still be bad, because the minute even with left, when it says traditional family values and begins to try to decentralize the banking, then the country is in risk of invasion. You must recruit everybody, and you understand that this was foreplanned by the people who funded his campaign. whether it's from the occult or from the church, was affiliated with the church. So this is a big issue that we have. We have a very centralized fiscal system on which we try to build a decentralized political system. Since politics is wealth and resources, and money is resources, and real estate is resources, natural resources are resources, then we're still stuck in a pyramid. And so what's important is for us to begin to identify, when we see these keywords, we understand what we can and what we cannot expect around this. So traditional family values equal invasion, war, and military, mandatory military for people, okay? It's impediment of war. It's like a note that they tell you, this Inquisition, that they're going to do this to a country. It's not the blame of the leader. They tell him, you must put this. Now, Thatcherism is another interesting thing we want to touch on. And this is basically leading to perception that the people who were deprived of resources are in this situation because of whether their personality quality, bloodline, which is back to eugenics, back to Nazism actually, but is also back to tribalism and back to Inquisition, that they are in this way because they're not spiritually advanced, the level of consciousness is not good, where in fact they are victims of corruption, okay? Of victims of corruption. Even when you take into account, I don't know, drug use and this or that, when I met people that were using drugs, some of the most responsible people I've met were addicted to drugs. I even myself was surprised how come, and it was usually, okay, one person turns to me and he said, don't spill your problems to me, I have enough of people telling their problems to me, and it's true, we just met. And apparently this person was the kind of person that everybody comes and spill their heart to, but there was nobody to listen to them. They were continually stressed, worried about a family member, working in security, and then they had to fund the drugs. And they were, the way they would prepare for next day, they would have like almost military discipline, but they would, we slept in the same hostel, the same room, and they would have everything ordered, and they would fold their clothes, prepare the clothes for the next day. Everything was military, ready, disciplined, focused, while being on having to do cocaine, having to do this, having to do that, cope with the stress of their lives, okay? So the problem was not that they're not responsible, was not that they are not a caring person, was not that they are not a generous person, was not that they are not a person who keep a job. They were homeless and keeping a job in security, mind you. It was not that they couldn't manage money. They needed, for them, the drugs was like the medication that would get them able to work. Okay, for they would needed to get up and be able to do their thing, they needed cocaine. That was why they used the drugs. And so when we get that, and it's important for us to get that, because when you run into a person of whether they are high, of whether they are not wearing the right clothes, of whether they don't have the correct speech because they've been given slow-mo execution pills in the psychic ward, and so they're not as representative, or alternatively they're super functioning and you don't suspect that there's something wrong. And these people are victims of corruption, okay? This is the truth for why you would be marketed opinions that are different. And it goes right from the spiritual community, for when you want to do retreat, for when they say you need to practice financial freedom, and so on. Yes, of course, there are things that when we do, we move the energy around. Okay, when we're generous, we move the energy around. When we focus on that which we want to increase in our life, we move the energy around. This is not false. It's not bad. But the C factor, for that explains things, is sometimes corruption. And we also have to understand that the person can be the person that takes responsibility, but is still dealing, whether it's with addiction or whether it's with certain financial situation and so on. Thatcherism, what was Thatcher known for, is Margaret Thatcher, the milk snatcher. Okay, so she was basically retreating from the welfare state. Now, there's a difference. What the C factor is can you make an income as a business? I'm not even saying the big word entrepreneur, okay? Because for you to make money, you should be able to make money by yourself with your own skill. That the money comes to you, somebody pays you for your skill, the money comes to you, maybe you register at the bank or at the fiscal place, okay? And this should be enough to keep you fed with the food that is nourishing for you, housed in a house that's supportive of your nervous system. If you're a good civil person, you take a step back when you're angry, and when you connect with people, it's from a place where you're ready to connect with people. You have enough physical space to do so, fertile soil, for when you are clothed in the correct clothing you need for your job. Okay, if there's a decorum or what you need, you should be able to buy this clothing, and you should be able to have the correct education for you to pursue on with your skill, and the time to practice your skill, and the time to raise, whether it's a family or live your life. All of this from the simplest job for you to be doing with your skill. This is basis. When you don't have that, because you have to pay protection, because everything is corrupt, then you begin to be sick, and then you must depend on the government. Because you're not able to be self-sustainable without being mingled with crime organizations, and you're not able to get the support of the government without saying, yes, you have to take this slow-mo execution pill, or this drug or that drug, or pay protection for representation, otherwise you don't get your rights met, and so on. So this is the basic way. And then of course when there is war, then people become disabled, also psychologically, okay, there's stresses. And so what happens is that it's not a withdrawal from the welfare state, because people have been leaning on the welfare state and not been doing anything with their lives, they're not being this. When a person wakes up from depression, and even during depression, they do things with their lives. People do things with their lives all the time. Okay, when they have ability, accessibility, whether to practice, whether to paint, whether to do gardening, to do even your hobby. Okay, people want to do things with their lives. Even if when a person is not working, but they do gardening, they do things around their house, they're painting, they live, they do not have a pet, they have a this, they have a that. They're a civil person. It's a person that's nice to be around. They're already contributing to society, okay? They're not contributing to stress in society, but they're contributing to society already. You don't have to manage them that much. It's 1% of the energy that you have to invest in running social resources. And so the Thatcherism is not about, oh, these people do not do something with themselves. We must take away the milk. We must take away the support so that they will do something with themselves. No, it is a step before death and concentration camps, which happened not only in Nazi Germany, but in United States today, as we are speaking. And why is that? Because they want the common person to not be in a position where they can whistleblow, where they can take actions against corruption that's depriving them of the fruits of their labor and depriving them of the ability to be self-sustainable, which people do want. People want a sense of community, but essentially everybody wants to have something that they did, that they like, that they can show other, whether it's even cooking a meal or singing songs or building something. And people are way more creative and innovative than we believe them to be. And when we see this perception, whether it's saying downright Margaret Thatcher, Thatcherism, or we see this, and the question is not so much only welfare, but also the fact that in those countries don't expect to be able to do business. They will deprive you of, even with taxation, they will deprive you, but this taxation no longer goes to your welfare, or they will deprive you of your ability because you will have to pay protection, there's corruption, and so you cannot do even, what are the most known businesses for money laundering and drug dealing laundering? It is pizza places. Okay, who doesn't like pizza? Even if they're gluten-free pizza, who doesn't like pizza? Okay, pizza places. And the people, when they don't have family support in them, then they are to be recruited, they are more susceptible to abuse. But when they're not included, they also begin to see people like Adolf Hitler, when he was homeless and he was tortured, began to see people. Okay, began to see people in a certain way. And if people want to work hard, he will give death and concentration camp. It must be no problem because he wants to destroy. Already this is what happened to the people when they are in these cults. They go through torture, then they bifurcate towards destruction, or they are assassinated when they are not agreeing to enslave humanity. And even the people that say Thatcherism, they will tell you of the plans to enslave humanity, like even JFK did, and I didn't know it. Only recently I learned, 7 days before his death, he was trying to warn people that there's some plans like this. This was 1963. Julian Assange, okay, understood that there's a plan globally to enslave humanity. Yes, but why did he have to say Thatcher? Because it was funded by Rockefeller. Rockefeller's funding is cutting dividends to the church, which cut in dividends to Vatican, to where they did the Inquisition, and now he has to, and this is undermining of his ability to warn people of mass enslavement. Okay? It's not because he is a big libertarian or whatnot, it's because the money comes from there, and if he wants to expose war crimes, he says on the scale, I want to expose the war crimes that we don't know, because we're going to think that, let's say United States or Britain, they are super angels comparing to those other countries. And what I see is that those other countries, they are way less not liberal than we think, but when the West comes and brings weapons for people, for Taliban, to oppress the people, and then say, the Taliban took the regime without oppression, without resistance. Okay, this is the story you are told. In Israel, for many years, people were told the story that there was no resistance to the Holocaust. And then Holocaust survivors were treated as the lean Jew. Okay? And this is the state when they say Zionist Nazis, okay? This is the Zion Nazis that treated Holocaust survivors as the lean Jew. Those were the people that got the funding in a way that got money to the Inquisition, just like Hitler. Okay, it doesn't mean that Israel is Nazi or even that Zionists are Nazi. It means that there are always infiltrations of the sovereignty of a nation, including Palestine. When you hear people that had Hitler books, a Mein Kampf, and it was not Mein Kampf of like, if I would read Mein Kampf, I want to know what Hitler said in his words so I can argue with that. No, they are looking at this, they read it like the Bible, okay? But when you see these people, or even in Palestine, you understand that the women, the children, the gender fluid, the common people, okay, they will not be treated. Palestine will become like a Hitler state, and that's the supposed desire here is to enslave humanity in the washing of, let's bring indigenous communities, tribalism. Well, I'm sorry, if your tribalism has not appeased Sedna and you still do infanticides like the Mormons, and you still act like the Mormons, like the Christians that occupied you, then, and you acted like this before Inquisition, there was infanticide since antiquity in tribal society, since Inuit. if a woman did not want to marry, what is the sadness story? The woman did not want to marry. She didn't find a man she's connected with. She did not want to marry. And then she was betrayed and could not be accommodated for in the society. And then what happened was she drowned. Basically, you had to pray for Sedna, you had to peace for Sedna, otherwise you have no food. Okay? When we don't accommodate for the people that want to be respected, that don't want to be raped in marriage, that don't want to be in toxic relationships, okay? We take the story of Lilith. Lilith was the first wife of Adam. Then she said, I don't want abuse. And Adam says, I'm sorry. She said, no, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. With me, respectful. You acted disrespectful. I'm not going to give you another chance to be disrespectful to me. Okay, similar story. Then came Abrahamic religion and says she's a demon. She is snatching children. She's killing children. She is this. She is that. She is the woman that stepped out of a toxic relationship. It's just a woman god. Okay, not a man god, a woman god. But with the Inquisition, they were patriarchal. This is why they talk about traditional family. It's not a man and a woman. It's where a man is patriarch and men suffer, men die. Men will die from heart attack because if they don't have a power to the counterpart, whether it's a man or a woman with them, okay, then they carry the weight of this heart alone, and they are expected to use violence, okay, and expected also to have more than one woman, like the Muslims, because they were inspired by the Mormons. If it's Mormons, they had to have at least 3 women to reach to heaven. And then Muhammad said 4 women. But what did he say? He says the woman who is divorced, the woman who is disabled, the woman who is widowed. Okay, to those women, you also need to marry them. Okay, I was trying to do a bit of a socializing, was relatively feminist to his time. But also with the child marriages that were still in the Mormons, okay, child marriages for 12, for 13, still today in the United States, in Europe. Then this was not abolished also in Islam. And we all pay the price for that. Child terrorist. I want you to listen to the Imagination podcast. And so when you understand that this is money, it's not Christ consciousness, it's not your spirituality, it's not even your religion. Okay, it's teachings that were by human vessels that oppress people. Okay, and if you don't get that, then you will begin to adopt these worldviews without asking, hey, where is it coming from? Remember when I was in high school, in a very techie high school in Israel, startup nation. So I didn't even know this, but lodges were infiltrating every good spot, and I wasn't aware of it. I was just a student, I like to study. What they teach you, people that give up their freedom for food are not deserving for freedom or for food. And they repeat that, Elon Musk was a child of miners. It doesn't mean that he didn't work hard. It doesn't mean he doesn't have great ideas, okay? It's just he was born into certain lineage and certain entrapment in this cult. And you see him also posting this. Why? Because they are owned by people that force them to say this. They don't necessarily even believe it themselves. Even when you have an argument with the person, they say, I'm libertarian, I'm this, I'm that, they're already getting money. They're already funded. Why? Even not directly, okay? They need to find a job. They need to have connection. The Groucho Marx, if you don't like my opinions, I have other opinions. But these opinions give you money, then you adopt the opinions, but you must understand as well what these opinions, where they're coming from. Because if you're succumbing to this person that has the certification, that's very educated, that has the right clothes, that speaks right, or that is entertaining and appeals to kind of like the common person, kind of the Donald Trump style of speech, he's not, when he's speaking simple language and so on, so he can speak completely differently. If you see him meeting with the British Parliament and you see him speaking to his voters, you see completely 2 different Donald Trumps. And that's a quality. for being able to meet your viewers where they are and to apply to your viewers for what they like to hear. Okay? And so you meet these people that appeal to you, but you don't understand what is the origin of their opinions and why. Because sometimes these people are going to be very intelligent, very amiable, people loving. If you take a look at celebrities, many of them are really people loving. They're entertainers. They want your attention. They want a rapport. And it's genuine for them. At this point, it's genuine for them. They're not playing a role. They are who they are with you. Okay? So it's a charismatic leader. But the funding is still the funding, and they still have to abide by so-and-so. And this is how they're also undermined. Those who practice expandable children, it's the same cults, they practice expandable people. They also practice expandable leaders. They know this. They're trapped just as much as the people are. And sometimes it's coming from the spiritual community. There's nothing wrong with teaching you tricks of how to move energy that opens the gate to wealth. Okay? When I move the soil around, when I create the half moons, when I put into the soil, well, usually I would find either food or wisdom or something. Okay, I move the energy around. You need to know this. You need to do that. When you clean, if you're physically able to clean, or you can set the intention that you want to move the energy around, or you want to clear the house, or you want to tend to something. Yes, it does move the energy around. This is good teachings. That being said, when the spiritual teachings begin to be like, poor people are selfish, okay, supposedly because they don't move the energy around in a different way, you must understand that between your putting in your effort and the yield, the C factor, it can be compassion or it can be corruption. And you need to tend to that corruption. Okay, for many people it's like, oh, why is my business not successful? Well, maybe you don't know, but they're going to change the entire coin and the entire way. So what do you prefer for your business right now to be successful? Then you would lose everything and won't want to do business. Or for you feel that things are working, you're building skill, you're amping up, you're becoming informed. But right now, where all your money would have to be enabling a democide, that way of reaching wealth is blocked to a certain degree. But the path is paving for you to see wealth coming from other directions. What is you literally finding food in the street? You want to be putting food in the street. And it's not giving fishes, because the people who find these foods, the people that move the energy, and then they feel a calling to go this, to go that, and then they see, when I'm growing potatoes in my yard, one day I said I must travel, and I had no food with me, no money with me. Said I must travel, and I took the road, and I was reaching a place, and there was a mall, and there were restaurants. And something tried to divert my way from going there, because it tried to block my wealth. And then I go anyway. I said, no, I'm hungry. I go anyway, and around the table, 2 people left, and they left full packs. Okay, everything was almost totally eaten, except for the fries. There was potatoes and the fries, full with sauces. All I had to do was sit down and eat. Why did I find potatoes? Why did I not find other food? Why did I not find, I don't know, tortilla? Why did I not find bread? Because I'm growing potatoes and I'm putting my energy in potatoes. And then when I'm hungry, this is what the food that I find. I put the energy there, I put the focus there. But you also want to give from food that is good for you to eat. You want to give away. When I was homeless, I was in Netherlands, there was no food. Somebody was helping me, but there was a little bit of food in the in where I was. Okay, so I was not hungry. Somebody helped me, and I didn't ask for anything from them, but the food that they brought me, it was not just simple food. They brought me nuts and fruits that were dry fruits. It's something that could keep me, that could keep my brain health good. And sometimes people even thought that I'm trying to fool them, because when they would ask me for what I want, I say I need this essential oil, so this vitamin, and they were like, why would the homeless person ask for that? Because I want to keep my health, my nervous system healthy. Because I want to think, because I want to do something with my life. And if I get the bed and I get some food, when there were the time when we got food, I get the bed, I get the food. Why would I ask from them for something when I get it? Yes? But if you don't know these things, you start thinking in terms of where you're working all day, and instead of taking the time to make the time before you will become sick, and even if it means resting, taking your meditation or taking your rest and praying, asking for more time to rest. This is how you take the time to make the time. This is how you move the energy. Okay? If when you're going to be very tempted to think that this Thatcherism is touching you, that the people that milk you away from your resources are the homeless people or the whistleblowers to try to move the energy around, rather than the Inquisition that compounds your taxes on creating wars and forcing even our whistleblowers like Assange, even the people that don't want to see pedophilia, okay, some right-wing leaders don't want to see pedophilia, but they cannot talk about the Mormons because they get the funding from this, so they talk about the Islam. But what they mention, I don't like this, Muhammad sleeping with 6 years old Aisha. They are creating a pathway for when this happens with the Mormons. They say, oh, you don't like this happening with the Islam. Look, this is also happening with the Mormons. Now you can bring something to discourse. They're setting another step forward from within what they mean to what they can do. And of course, the forces will try to put them on tape doing bad things to children. Yes? It's also something you need to understand. When a person sets out to do something good, those cults, the money depend on that. They're going to try to recruit the person to cross over. And for sometimes you get people, because nothing is more achievement to them than a person who, let's say, started their career by helping people who are wrongfully accused of murder, defending alleged pedophile ring Supreme Court manager that blamed some drug dealer in maybe pedophilia and murder wrongfully. Okay, they like doing these things. So this is where, yes, you want to pay attention. The thought that laziness in general, what people call laziness, more often than not is depression, is not being ready to take a certain step because the path has not been cleared yet. Okay, the path needs to be clear. Okay, potato cannot grow its roots if the soil is not fertile. It cannot strike its roots. There's nothing to support, there's nothing to nourish it. So sometimes you gotta throw food, throw organic food, throw vegetables, throw this. It's one of the fun parts of when I cook. Then I take what leftovers, and then I throw at the soil, and later I go down and I dig up the soil. And it's like a game, because then the soil is rich, and then I can grow food. If you order the soil, if you do the half moons, you have arid soil. Then when the rain comes, now it is supportive, the water is absorbed and don't just spill over. Now you can grow something, and from the root, things begin to change. Okay, this is good wealth teaching. To snatch away the milk, I'm sorry, but Margaret Thatcher, she was in England. How many people that she was talking about, the people that were on welfare, were living in cities where they don't even have the ability to grow a plant? Or if they did, they would have put salt on their soil so that they can't grow crops. Basalt is expensive. You can collect the salt and you can sift it and you can sell it. Now they got a business. The bureaucracy for people to make money. Try to make it impossible to be self-sustainable, okay? Those things that you want to pay attention to. The people, if you don't rest in, if you're the kind of person who cannot see a person resting, you will not be able to see them working. For me, the same people that couldn't see me sleep, they couldn't see me work. They couldn't see me when I was working, they couldn't see me working. Why? Because they couldn't see me resting. And I had to cut away from them so that I can regain my ability to be yielding, to be doing something productive for my life. The same people that cannot see you when you're crying or when you're sad, they cannot see you happy. They want you to smile for them, but they cannot see you happy. And it's okay, maybe they need to do their own emotional processing. But the same people that tell you we need to snatch the milk from people because they're not doing things with their lives, is the same people keeping people in ability where they can't self-sustain. And that's Thatcherism. That's Thatcherism. That's what they put in the policy so that they are continuing the torture of mass population for mass destruction, and then blaming people that they gave up their food for freedom. If you can't grow your food because somebody put salt on it, you did not give up your food for freedom. Your freedom for food. Yes, you did not give up your freedom for food. This type of victim blaming, okay, is perpetuating the cycle, because the minute you buy into the people that tell you that, they don't believe in these ideas. They have their islands, they have their army, they have their bunkers, they are resting, they are doing meditations. And if they are working, then they are taking the microdosing of this mushroom, that mushroom, okay? But they don't give this to you. But they ask you to be productive and then say, oh, look, you're a piece of shit, you cannot do anything, you don't want to do anything, it's because you don't want to. Now, if you buy into this, then you begin to hate yourself and you begin to hate others. This is where they want you to be. Now they can recruit you. Oh, let's go to war. Let's hate on these people. Let's hate on those people. Let's create excess of the energies that perpetuate suffering rather than yielding of something that is actually growing. And this is right now when you see all these opinions. Yes, poor people are poor because they are selfish, or because the physiognomy of their face. Okay, and yes, I tell you, abuse changes the physiognomy of the face. There are people that I see how they were before they got recruited, how they were after they got recruited. The bone structure, even though when they were adults, the bone structure was changing. It doesn't mean that by bone structure you can identify who is who, because when they got crossed over, it's by abuse that they do that. But this also goes the other way around. Okay, when people begin to be in a loving place, yes, they begin to glow. But they might not have the most symmetrical face or symmetrical this or symmetrical that, but they begin to glow from the inner. And you don't know, what do you find beautiful about this person? You don't know. It's like they don't have the, I don't know, the eyes that you usually go for, the symmetry you usually go for. Yes, you find them, and yet the person can be having the best aesthetics, and you're like, I don't know why their energy doesn't something. Because before a couple of years there, I would look at them and I could drown in their eyes. Now I'm looking at them and they're like, there's something, they look like something they've been through, something, they're afraid of something, they're defending things that are not correct. Okay, it's not about blame and judgment. It's draining on their life energy as well. And you see that. But this is not because the person has a certain bloodline and then they have certain physiognomy, and then this physiognomy is of criminal, is of this. No, they put a lot of energy to torture people to get them to do that. And even with this energy, people escape. People prefer to be tortured and away. People try to kill themselves, even when they put this energy, because they try to make you think humanity is horrid, humanity is this, humanity is, but this is by design. So,